Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Celebrity Stage Stories with Jerry Strauss. He is I am him. And of course, Celebrity Stage Stories is brought to you by Edge Magazine. Each issue of Edge explores a compelling cultural theme with an intriguing blend of essays, articles, interviews, artwork, and photography, along with interviews with the biggest names in TV, movies, music, and more. Visit Edge Magazine's website for free digital versions of the magazine, exclusive digital content, and more at edgemagonline.com. And follow us, of course, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram today. And speaking of today, of course, today is a big day with a great conversation ahead of us. We've had a lot of guests on this show, but quite frankly, I'm not sure we've ever spoken to someone who, at this early stage of her career, has commanded the amount of respect for everything that she is already accomplishing. So we're so excited to get to know her a little bit better. Arlyn Broche is here. Arlyn, how are you?
I'm doing great, Jerry. How are you?
I'm
Thank you for
doing
having
well.
me.
Oh, thanks for being here. Thank you so much. I know that there isn't a day in your life that is not a hectic one, from what I can gather. So I appreciate you taking the time to be with us, and we want to learn about everything that you have going on. Of course, so many people know you, recognize you, and have already come to love you from your role on Young Rock, which has become such a huge hit for NBC. Of course, playing the so impressive Danny Garcia, who we'll talk about it. I mean, she's someone that I've had an opportunity to interview here. We're going to have a classic interview with her herself here on this show, on this YouTube channel. If it's not up now, it will be up very soon as well. But let's talk about you, Arlyn, because first of all, I want you to debunk this rumor, this fact that I found on the internet. I don't know if it's true or not, but did you start your acting career way back in the second grade by playing Juliet in Romeo and Juliet on an adult level?
I did.
That's so and just to clarify what we're talking about here, so this was an adult level script, the classic Shakespeare play, not simplified for children in any way. This was like the full Monty, the mature story of love and romance, and obviously Juliet, one of the two main players in the play, and you as a second grader were able to pull that off?
Yes, I was in the gifted program, and teacher, my gifted teacher, had said, we're going to do the play Romeo and Juliet. She was very big on Shakespeare, and they said, okay, who of the kids want to audition for Juliet? And so I remember just really I was like, oh my gosh, I've always loved storytelling ever since I was a little girl. My dad was a very successful actor in Cuba, and he would always say jokes and tell stories, and I was always captivated by that. So he actually gave me my first acting book, Stanislavski acting book, when I think I was like 7 or 8 years old.
Mm.
And then of course when that time came around, I auditioned for Juliet, and I got the role. And so it was definitely a lot of fun. It was interesting to learn Shakespeare at that age, and well, make my best attempt to perform Juliet.
That's amazing. That's quite an undertaking, and I think the theme that we're going to hit time and time again in this conversation is about work ethic, and I think that for a second grader to be open and excited about tackling something like that, it kind of shows where you were headed all along. But now, acting obviously something that captivated you at a young age. But I thought it was interesting to find out that eventually, fast forwarding a little bit, you go to the Florida International University, and you're actually headed towards a path towards healthcare administration.
Yes.
So at this point, had you changed mindsets completely about wanting to focus on maybe something more practical for your future or shying away from the arts?
Well, my mom, my family in whole is very artistic. My mom was a registered nurse, but always loved poetry, and she loved painting. And my brother and sister are both attorneys. So a lot of left brain people in the family, while still maintaining that right side, the right brain. When I was 19 years old, I actually got married. and I had my first daughter. And
Mm.
so I said, it's more appropriate. My husband had a child from a prior marriage. He was a baby. And I said, it's more appropriate. Let me go into healthcare administration. Let me, and then I remember studying, beginning my journey on healthcare administration. And I was like, this really isn't for me. I was like, I'm going to go into like, communications, media. It's maybe PR. And then, it's, nice, I have a family, I'm children. And then I said, you know what? I was like, nah, I'm gonna let them all hang out there. I'm gonna go for drama. I'm gonna go for theater, which is what I love, and so that ended up happening. But yeah, it was the idea, the mind frame, the mindset of like, I'm married, I have kids, so I have to do this path. And my background has always been in business.
Yeah.
It's funny you should say that, like business and networking and marketing. And I've always loved that as well because it deals with communication. It deals with talking to people, connecting with people. And ultimately I think it encompasses everything, so.
Yeah, I mean, even as far I would imagine as far as just the networking aspect of being in acting, did you feel like you kinda had a leg up as far as how to make connections and how to get your name out there and pursue sort of a higher profile?
I feel that the fact that, well, my background and everything that I've learned business wise, it definitely has helped me in
Yeah.
understanding the business aspect of acting, the
Mhm.
acting career, not of acting, but the acting career, and absolutely, I think it's something that definitely. It's just, naturally, it's not just always going for like, okay, what's the business angle or it's more about like starting natural conversation and connecting with people. And I feel like that's what really, for anything, for friendships, relationships, business, anything. It's just something that I think I naturally love to do. So that helps me a great deal.
Yeah, and I could totally see that. Now, on the flip side, going back to that, just the business aspect of kind of mixing that uh, with life as an actor, as a performer, um, that's a really interesting thing to think about because of how you would eventually connect on more than one project, of course, with Dwayne Johnson and, of course, Danny Garcia. And, their whole success in the careers of so much of what they've done has been based on the idea of we're not just going into this, The Rock was never going to just be an actor. It was all about branding and creating something bigger and then also being able to create the art that was a part of that. So it's interesting that you were able to connect to them and to that world even before Young Rock, because so many people first came to know you uh, from your role on Ballers on
Yes.
HBO.
Yes.
So how did that come to be for you?
So ballers, so your question is how did I book ballers or how
Yeah.
did.
How did
Okay.
how did you first yeah, I mean, kind of enter the family, so to speak, but how did you get your role, and be considered for that role on Ballers?
All right, so I actually auditioned for the role of Ballers in Lori Wyman Studios in her casting studio.
Mhm.
I went in, I booked it off tape. She's here in North Miami Beach, and that was interesting. It was a co-star role, and I remember I at first I didn't even know I was having this scene with Dwayne Johnson. It was, I was a pharmacist. I was dealing with a gentleman called Spencer Strasmore. I had looked into the show. It was a co-star role. And I auditioned for it. And my agent calls me, was like, you booked Ballers. You booked Tanya on Ballers. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. So when I go in to see, I'm like, all right, Spencer Strasmore. I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God, it's The Rock is playing Spencer Strasmore. So I thought it was so cool. Funny enough, I had met Danny and Dwayne about 20 years ago. At the time, I think it was about 16 years ago, 20 something years ago now, 16 years ago when I was on set of Ballers.
Okay,
And I met him at the gym because
okay.
my brother was a big wrestling fan. And at the time, that many years ago, Dwayne wasn't even in movies or he wasn't in shows. He was just very big in wrestling. And I remember my brother saying, oh my gosh, The Rock, he just walked into the gym. Can you go get his autograph? And I was like, stop. I was like a little teenager. And I was like, I'm not going to go up to this man, at the time. Not that I was, very shy, but I was also like, this is weird.
Yeah.
But I remember sure. My brother's like, please, I'll do anything. And I was like, fine. So I went in and I asked him at the gym, and he was like, for sure. He was so nice. So we went to the front, to the front desk, and he signed the autograph, and he walked over with Danny. And I remember just, seeing them and that energy. And I was like, wow. And then fast forward years later, I'm on set of Ballers, and I'm telling Dwayne, I'm like, I'm not sure if you remember me, but I asked you for an audition. I mean, an audition, I asked you for an autograph
Yeah.
at the gym at Porky's. And he's like, of course I remember you. I mean, what? What? So it was a total full circle moment for me. And booking Danny, well, funny enough, George, when I started out my acting career, I remember seeing, I've been following Danny's career for a long time. I knew Danny and Dwayne from Miami. They were very big in Miami. They were locals to Miami,
Yeah.
and his wrestling career and all that. And I remember saying, I was like, wow, I would really love to work with $7. I would really love to work with the Garcia companies. I would love to work with Danny. She's such a powerhouse. She's Cuban. I'm Cuban. They're in the entertainment world. Like, the things they're doing is not just, like you said, it's not one dimensional. They encompass a lot. And having my business background, having all that, loving the arts, loving storytelling, I said, I want to work with them. I want to work in their team. Like, I put that out there, I want to say over like 10 years ago. And I remember even writing a letter to $7 and saying, dear Danny Garcia, my name is Arlyn Broche. I'm starting as an actor in, blah, 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 blah. And I would love to, to work with you. And I remember I was like, I'm not going to send this. This is totally ridiculous. I'm not going to send this. And then I remember saying, well, what's the worst thing that could happen?
Right.
I never got an answer. What's the worst thing that could happen? That she's like, you've lost your mind. Contact me when you have like, I don't know, like Meryl Streep's resume or whatever.
Right.
Of course, I never got an answer, but then years later, I worked on Ballers, and then years later, I'm, not right now, present moment, I'm, playing Danny on the show. So for me, it's like,
That's crazy. I mean, how many people in this world, get to kind of put that out into the ether, somebody they want to work with, and they actually end up getting to work with them. But then on top of that, not just being able to work with her, but actually playing her on TV. I mean, that's destiny, right? I mean, you have to believe there's something greater, insanely coincidental at work to make that happen.
I agree with what you said as far as that. Like, it's something greater at work. And I feel manifestation and how we think and what we do and what we put into action is so big. I think it's very underrated. And a lot of people just like, oh, it's cliche, manifest. No, 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 no.
Yeah.
Put it out there, say it, put it on your vision board, think about it, put your effort into it. And man, sooner or later, have patience, tenacity, grit, persistence. Eventually it's going to play out. Like, if it's something that you really put in your mind, and it's going to happen.
And the thing I gotta ask you, because I mean, and I know that it sounds like it's all love and everything, but there still has to be a pressure on you, because you're playing this person who exists. She's real. She's alive. She's watching everything going on as far as your portrayal of her. But you also have to figure out a way how to portray her, not now, but then, and also kind of reflect in a way where this very unique, very effective, very powerful relationship between her and Dwayne was back then, versus how it's evolved into something that's very different but very awesome today, that you're dealing with in the present day. Um, what kind of communication, what kind of feedback and input have you gotten from Danny through this process of creating her all over again on Young Rock?
Well, she actually took my call because I had told, one of the producers, I said, listen, I would love to talk to her. I've done, background research on her, and I've looked for footage and just all the information on the internet and whatnot. And she said, no, for sure, I would love to talk to her. So when I was in Australia shooting this in Queensland, which by the way was so freaking cool, she took my call. We had a call. It was about like, I want to say half an hour. And I asked her all these questions, and specific, like as to like the nail polish she used, because a lot of my scenes were on the phone. Nail polish she used, her quirkiness, and like, she was also like, I was very, she had talked about like her insecurities and how she wasn't very much in like to makeup and this and that and the other. And she had the women that she worked with at Merrill Lynch, she had made a really good friend that had told her, use ballet slippers, do French manicure, do this, do that. So a lot of that really helped me because it was more of like you said, in that time in the 90s, it's not who she is today. And my main goal or my main focus was really to make sure that I established that power, that not so much power, but the guiding light, the force, the support that she was for Dwayne in the beginning of the relationship, throughout his life. And I definitely I feel that Uli, which was my scene partner, it's so important, it's important to mention him because he was just so great in working with me on that. And we talked about it as well. So he was on season 1. So he's worked with, the cast and Dwayne and Danny for longer than I have. And so yeah, it was definitely challenging, but it almost felt seamless, and Danny was like, listen, I couldn't have picked a better person to play me. And I really loved your audition. And I feel that you got this. I've looked into your background, I've seen, your work, and I feel that, with this information, you're not going to have an issue, and so I trust you. And she was just so kind and so reassuring. And it felt really, really nice. So I'm grateful for her. I'm grateful
That
for her in that sense as well.
that's really amazing. And going back to what I mentioned before, of course, it will be up very soon if it's not up already. Check it out on our channel, youtube.com/Jerry Strauss. You're going to see or be able to hear a classic interview that I did with Danny Garcia herself. Spoke to her a couple times actually over the years for different magazines. One thing that struck me about her, and I'm wondering if you kind of got this as well, and I feel like it's a trait that you share, I believe, just based on everything you have going on. I remember speaking to her kind of in the middle of a lot of things she had going on, not the least of which was training for a bodybuilding competition, which, a lot of people pay attention to her career and don't realize she has this whole other thing going on. And I mean, that is intense training leading up to the days of a competition like that. And I expressed to her just my disbelief in how she's able to, fit all this into her life. And she went on to just kind of explain that, it's daunting and it's difficult, but here's what I do. And she explained her whole schedule of which hours she has to work out and which hours she, is office time and phone call time. And like she had it all figured out. And I knew immediately that she's the kind of person who does not let doubt about her ability to do something. She doesn't let herself talk herself out of the ability to do something. She's not going to say, she's not going to do what most of us do and find reasons and excuses why it can't be done. So let's not even try. If she wants to accomplish something, she's going to say, I can do this. I just need to figure out how. And she's going to come up with a plan. She's going to follow that plan and she is going to succeed. And I feel like that's really a strength that is inspirational. It's good to be around. It's a positive energy for anyone to work with or be around. I think that probably benefits herself. It benefits Dwayne and probably has since they've worked together for so many years. And
Absolutely.
I feel like that's got to be something that you can relate to because the way your career is going, did you feel that from her and also feel that within yourself?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I have been following her career ever since, the beginning. And like I said, it's just like seeing her tenacity and the force that she is. It's so inspiring. I mean, listen, are there days that we wake up and I wake up and I'm like, oh my gosh, like total imposter syndrome, like, and are people going to figure out that I'm not this big deal and like this is not, and then it's like I feel like, yeah, there's days that we all have that, but it's keeping on, like you just keep going. It's not about like there's no benchmark to your life, to my life at least. And what I do is I read and I listen to podcasts and I just My thing is like people are like, yeah, there's people that have more confidence in others, and I think it's what we're talking about. And confidence, I feel, is more something that's built and it's developed, and it's about keeping the promises that I make to myself. So if I tell myself, all right, I'm going to go work out at 10:30, I'm going to go work out at 10:30. I mean, and something has to happen, like some natural disaster or something, that an emergency or whatnot, but I'm going to keep that promise to myself. And because at the end of the day, that's what I bring to the table. I know that, my work ethic, I know, my discipline, the things that I can control, I bring them to the table, and that's the value that I bring. And so that development of confidence of like, okay, I said I was going to do this. I did it. I'm going to do this. I'm doing this. Like those are things that you can develop. And I feel like anyone can develop. And
Yeah.
each of us bring something unique to the table. So I definitely admire that in Danny. I admire that in Dwayne. Their work ethic is insane. They're relentless, their resilience. I feel like I can relate to them in a lot of different ways, but there's definitely a lot of things that they've done that I would love to do as well that I haven't done, so definitely.
Well, look, I mean, this journey of being on Young Rock has kind of just started for you, but I think it's such an important piece of the puzzle for that story. Is there any word yet? We know we just got word recently that we are officially renewed for season number 3. Will we be seeing more of you on the show?
Well, all I can say right now is I hope so.
I mean, we do too.
Are you asking
Absolutely.
me, Jared?
I'm a.
Well, I hope so. That's all I can say at this moment.
Okay. Okay. Now you got me worried that there's helicopters in the sky ready to strike one of
No.
us down.
Are you in LA?
I'm in Jersey, but
Nice, nice.
$7. There's some power there. They could
Oh my gosh,
they're watching
absolutely.
everywhere.
They're watching us now.
Well, look, on top of everything else that we've talked about already, you have this whole other career, this whole other life, this whole other gig as the VP of content for the largest Latin studio in the entire United States. Um, Tell us about that, because that's a mouthful even just to try to introduce after we're already talking about this amazing career in front of the camera that you're experiencing. Now, you're this influencer in a whole different way. How did that come to be? Tell us about it.
Well, I actually had met Ozzy Aru is the president and the founder, one of the bigger founders of Aru Studios, because it's him, his brother, it's a family studio.
Mhm.
And I remember learning about Ozzy Aru's story. And he was the president of Tyler Perry Studios for 13 years. And he produced a lot of the things that Tyler did during that time. And his story is definitely a Cinderella story. I was, like, wow, like when I learned about him and I met him and I actually started working with him and just, talking with him and just I remember thinking, I'm like, oh my gosh, a dream of mine is to create my own show where I'm in front and behind the camera and also empower, the marginalized communities, Latinos, all these different people that are not in the limelight. And I remember saying, my vision aligns with what he's doing, with what he's creating, which is, inclusion, which is, empowering the female voice, the Latinos, just people that have not been leading, in shows, leading in different types of stories. And so
Right.
that was something. It's been years now, but earlier this year, I want to say, or end of last year, he says to me, listen, I would love for you to be vice president of content. I would love to, for you to work with us. And so one of the duties that I have, and although I work satellite, is to recognize, directors, writers, actors, and incorporate them into the different verticals that the studio has. And so while I'm sorry, I'm just getting over like a cold. It's not COVID, even though
It's
this is
okay.
satellite.
It's okay.
I'm like, "Run now, he's running." Yeah, so it's running away. So, yeah, so it's incorporating these different types of talent into the different verticals of the studio, and, it's a satellite position.
Yeah.
I'm not in Atlanta, the studio is in Atlanta, and, you know, there's so many things that the studio does offer and does do as far as, content and as far as creating different, you know, exposure for artists, and I'm excited about it. I mean, it's something definitely. I'm not sure if you heard about Ozzy Aru.
Yeah, actually, the entire reason I didn't actually say the name of it was because I wasn't sure how to pronounce it, so I was gonna let you do it
Oh,
justice.
okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So Ozzy is a powerhouse. He is doing so many wonderful things. He's already has a huge track record. He definitely has a Cinderella story. So it's not, you know, for me, I love that. I love seeing stories that are not like Danny, like Dwayne, when you can see also in Young Rock, where it's like it's not like, you know, they came from money or they came from status, and there's no nepotism there like that. It was literally a story of someone that worked hard, had a vision, had a, you know, had all this stuff and continues to do that, because it's like, it's not like, okay, I got to the mountaintop and here I am. No, it's like, all right, what's the next thing? How can we empower the community? How can we create more of an impact? How can we influence in a positive way? How can we include more people? How can we be this, you know, this source of inspiration? For me, these people are so, I never want to be the smartest person in the room, Jerry. Never want to be the
Mhm.
smartest person in the room. I always love to be around people that empower other people that I can learn from. You know, if you bring more knowledge to the table, if you have something that you've created or that you've done, like, I want to sit in this table and talk to you about it. Like, what, you know, how did you do this? Like, what, like, I think that's so freaking cool.
Yeah,
So that's what I aim to do, you know, learn.
that's awesome. That's really great. Sounds like, something that is going to be a growing part of your life even as the rest of your career continues to grow, and, it kinda goes along with everything that you've been talking about, even your philosophy on confidence and building momentum and just continuing to push yourself. It's just moving forward. I mean, that seems to be kind of the common trait that has driven you all the way from playing Juliet in 2nd grade to now and beyond, is just don't think about it's kinda like that cliched movie scene where somebody's hanging off of, the top of a 20-story building. Don't look down, right? Like, you just keep trying to advance and progress and trying to move on up, without worrying about what could be down there, or getting distracted by what's on the side of you. Just keep moving up. You continue to do that, and, I mean, that's exciting because we're getting to catch up with you here today, but it's going to be exciting to watch and see all the other ways that you continue to move up, and I know that you will. So that's really awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, now thank you so much for being a part of the show. I know that we've taken up even a little bit more of your time than we planned, so thank you for that. Is there any particular way that you want people to follow you on social media, or where do you want people to
Well, if
keep
anybody
their
would
eyes
like
on
to
you?
follow me, um, it's at Arlyn Broche, ArlynBroche. It's like broche, like the brioche bun without the I. That's what I say in my Starbucks order, you know, or my like, is that a last name or first name? No, it's Arlyn Broche if you want to follow me, but definitely, you know, follow the show NBC Young Rock. I'm also working on another show that it's still in production. It hasn't come out yet, called Graves End.
Hmm.
It's a New York show, so I'm very excited about that as well. And yeah, and Arubro Studios. So
Nice.
lots of things. Thank you so much, Jerry. You're so kind. Thank you for all these questions and the opportunity to be on your show.
Yeah.
Um,
No, the pleasure is all mine. The pleasure is all ours, and we thank you. It's been great getting to talk about all this. And, no promises, fingers crossed. Of course, we know Young Rock. You can catch up, check out Arlyn on season 2 on Hulu and everywhere else that it's available. Make sure you binge it if you missed season 2 in its original broadcast season, but it's out there for you to watch again and again and again and enjoy Arlyn again and again. And fingers crossed for season 3 for that, in addition to everything else that we're going to be keeping an eye on you for. So
Thank you so much,
so
Jerry.
thank you. And thank you guys for checking us out once again on Celebrity Stage Stories. Of course, check us out on all of our outlets, YouTube channel as well at youtube.com/Jerry Strauss. Make sure you share, make sure you subscribe, tell your friends, and we'll keep this thing growing. And until then, we will see you all next time. Thanks again, Arlyn.
Bye.